building my own family, the day I chose to belong. I remember the exact moment everything changed. It wasn't dramatic or loud. There were no screaming matches or doors slammed in anger. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that terrifies you more than chaos ever could. I was sitting at my childhood kitchen table, watching my mother shuffle through bills with that tired expression I'd seen 1,000 times before, and I realized something that would reshape my entire life. The people I was born to didn't actually want me here. Let me back up, because I know that sounds heavy, and you might be thinking I had some tragic childhood. But here's the thing about betrayal: it doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, through small moments and broken promises, until one day you wake up and realize you're living with strangers who happen to share your last name. My family looked normal from the outside. My father was a businessman, successful by most standards. My mother stayed home and managed the household. I had two older brothers. We lived in a nice suburban neighborhood with a 2-car garage and a manicured lawn. We were the kind of family that showed up to church on Sundays and smiled for Christmas photos. But behind closed doors, that's where the real story begins. I was the youngest, and I was different. My older brothers were confident, athletic, ambitious. They knew exactly who they were supposed to be, and they fit that mold perfectly. I was quieter, more introspective, interested in things that didn't fit the family narrative. I loved art and music. I wanted to travel and explore the world. I questioned things. And in my family, questioning wasn't welcomed. It was seen as ingratitude, as rebellion. The betrayals weren't obvious at first. They came wrapped in phrases like, "We're just being honest," or "We're doing this for your own good." When I came home excited about a scholarship to study abroad, my father said it was impractical, a waste of potential. When I shared a piece of art I'd created, my mother critiqued it so harshly that I didn't pick up a paintbrush for 2 years. When I tried to talk about my dreams, my brothers laughed like I'd told a joke. But the real wound came when I needed them most. I was 23 when I went through my first serious depression. I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't eat. Everything felt gray and hopeless, and I finally worked up the courage to tell my parents that I needed help. I remember my hands shaking as I sat them down and said those words out loud. "I think I'm depressed. I need to see a therapist." My father's response was immediate. "That's ridiculous. You're fine. You're just being dramatic like you always are." My mother nodded in agreement. They didn't say it with cruelty. That's what made it worse. They said it with such certainty, such dismissal, as if I was a child claiming monsters under the bed. When I insisted on getting help anyway, paying for it myself with money I'd saved, my family treated it like a personal betrayal. They made jokes about it. They questioned whether I was being honest with the therapist or just trying to get attention. My father told people, extended family friends, that I was going through a phase. My mother would ask me constantly if I was better yet, as if mental health worked on a convenient timeline. That's when I stopped reaching out. That's when the distance began. Over the next few years, I built walls. I became professional at being fake around my family. I'd visit for holidays and play the role they'd written for me, the dutiful youngest child, grateful, uncomplicated, small enough to fit into the box they'd designed. But I was building something else simultaneously, something they couldn't see because they weren't looking closely enough. I was building a family of my own. It started with my therapist, who became more of a parent to me than my actual parents, not in a romantic or inappropriate way, but in her unwavering belief that I deserved to exist exactly as I was. She never tried to fix me or convince me I was wrong about my experiences. She just listened and validated and told me that what I was feeling was real. Then came Marcus, who became my best friend in my late 20s. We met at a community art class, and he was immediately everything my biological family wasn't. Curious about who I was, genuinely interested in my thoughts, willing to sit with me in my darkness without trying to minimize it. When I was struggling, he'd show up with coffee and never ask me to explain myself. He just said, "I'm here, whatever you need." Then there was Priya, a woman I met at work who became like a sister to me. When I was fired from a job and felt like a complete failure, she spent the entire night on my couch, reminding me that one rejection didn't define my worth. She'd say things like, "I'm so proud of you for trying. things my actual family had never said. Slowly, without consciously deciding to do it, I built something beautiful, a chosen family. These weren't people connected to me by DNA or obligation. They were people who chose to show up for me, and I chose to show up for them. We celebrated birthdays and milestones. We called each other at 3 in the morning when life fell apart. We believed in each other when nobody else did. But here's where my story gets complicated, because I know what you might be thinking. Aren't you just running away? Aren't you avoiding the real issue? And maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe I did run away at first. But what I discovered was that running away and running toward aren't always different things. I wasn't just leaving my family of origin, I was running toward the life I actually wanted, toward people who made me feel like I belonged. The turning point came when I finally cut contact with my parents. Not my brothers, we've maintained a distant, cordial relationship, but my mother and father. I didn't do it dramatically. I didn't write them a letter explaining all the ways they'd hurt me. I simply stopped calling. When they called, I didn't answer. When they showed up at my apartment, I politely told them I wasn't ready to see them. My mother left voicemails asking what she'd done wrong. My father told other family members that I was being cruel and ungrateful. And you know what? For a long time, I felt guilty about that. I internalized their narrative that I was the problem, that I was overreacting, that I should just forgive them and move on like a good daughter would. But Marcus, Priya, and my other chosen family members helped me see something crucial. I wasn't responsible for their pain. I wasn't responsible for managing their feelings about my boundaries. And I certainly wasn't responsible for setting myself on fire to keep them warm. Now, at 32, I've built a life that looks nothing like what my family of origin expected. I'm an artist and an art therapist. I travel regularly. I'm in a long-term relationship with someone who adores me not despite my sensitivity and introspection, but because of it. I have deep, meaningful friendships that have weathered real storms. My chosen family has shown up in ways my biological family never could. They've celebrated my successes without jealousy. They've held me through my failures without judgment. They've challenged me when I was wrong and supported me when I was right. They've loved me unconditionally, not because they were obligated to, but because they chose to, over and over again. Do I still feel the wound of familial betrayal sometimes? Yes. There are moments, particularly around holidays, when I feel the ache of what could have been, the sadness of not having parents who truly know and accept me. But those moments don't define my life anymore. They're a part of my story, not the whole story. What I want you to know, if you're watching this and you feel like an outsider in your own family, is this: belonging is not something that only gets handed to you at birth. It's something you can build. It takes courage. It takes time. It takes the willingness to be vulnerable with people who've proven they're worthy of that vulnerability. True family isn't determined by bloodline. It's determined by consistency, by showing up, by choosing each other again and again, even when it's difficult. It's the people who love you not because they have to, but because they want to. It's the people who see you really see you and love that person anyway. If your biological family has failed you, I want you to know that you're not broken. You're not unlovable. You're not asking for too much by expecting basic kindness and acceptance. And the path forward isn't always about healing that original wound. Sometimes it's about building something new, something better, from the ground up. My chosen family is the family I've always deserved. It took me 3 decades to realize that I was worthy of building it, worthy of claiming it, worthy of belonging somewhere. And so are you. Your family isn't waiting for you to be born. It's waiting for you to be brave enough to find it.